Hey everyone, welcome back to the Hashira Half Hour, and today's episode is sponsored by Tokyo Treat. Now, Tokyo Treat is a monthly pop Japanese snack subscription box, and you will get up to 20 exclusive limited edition and seasonal flavored Japanese snacks that are only available in Japan for a limited time. So this month is Sakura season, which I'm super excited to dive into. Sakura season is quite famous in Japan, known for being just gorgeous with lots of tasty snacks. But spring has arrived in Japan, and because of that, the much anticipated cherry blossoms, the viewing season is coming, the Hanami experience is coming, and the enchanting beauty of Japan's Sakura season is inside this box. I'm really excited to try it out.
100%. Really looking forward to trying these new snacks, getting a taste of Sakura, which is different than cherry flavor. It definitely leans into that floral from the experiences I've had, which was with my own Tokyo Treat box that Tom and I paid for during the pandemic. We loved it, and it's been so much fun to get to do this with friends. I feel like this is the right way. We're going to get it all eaten in one go.
This box will be empty.
1,000%. All right, let me go ahead and take a look at the booklet here so that we can learn a little bit more about what fun Tokyo Treat snacks we've got in our box today. Pear tart. Ready for a perfectly indulgent snack for spring? These cute little treats are shaped like mini pies, complete with a flaky, buttery crust.
Flaky, crispy crust.
Buttery, flaky crust. And sweet pear and white chocolate filling. That sounds pretty awesome. Let me just put it on the record that I think that pears are criminally underrated fruits. I think they are one of the superior fruits. Superior, even.
The main event.
Ba-ba-ba.
I look forward to this every single month. Get to try a new Kit Kat flavor. This one is matcha latte. No Hanami season is complete without a taste of Japan's famous matcha. Favorites. I think my favorite was the shortbread cookies. I'm a sucker for shortbread.
Those were really good.
Yeah.
I don't know, this box was really good. I think the mini pies were definitely up there, as well as the little strawberry straws.
I think I have to give it to these little pear pies. I think that's probably one of the most unique ones that we've gotten in the box so far. Thank you so much again to Tokyo Treat for sponsoring today's episode of the Hashira Half Hour. Don't forget that if you are interested in getting your own Tokyo Treat box and sharing it with your friends, just like we got to today, you can use code Hashira for $5 off of your first box. And let's go ahead and jump into today's episode,
which is an exciting one.
So what's up, y'all? I hope you enjoyed the sponsorship from today's Tokyo Treat box. With that being said, we are actually back from a different kind of treat. Some may call it a scam, some may call it a cash grab. I call it high doses of serotonin for my life. The new Demon Slayer movie, To the Hashira Training. And it, might I say, quite fire.
Absolutely, and I'm just going to say this now as a reminder to everyone. If you're listening into this and you have not seen it yet and you don't know what it is, I will enlighten you. It is the last episode of Swordsmith Village, season finale, with the first episode of Hashira Training, which is the new season that's coming out in the spring. Therefore, we got about 50-50. It was about 50% recap, 50% new content. So just know what you're getting into before you go. If it's something that you just don't really want to spend your money on, then don't. It's not a big deal. But don't, go with different expectations and then complain on the internet, because we don't need to do that again.
Well, and also, and maybe this will just kick us off, but if you're a fan of animes, and especially if you're a fan of Demon Slayer, personally, I would jump at any opportunity to spend the $12 or whatever, if that is attainable for you, to be able to go see it formatted for the big screen and audio mixed for the big screen, because it makes an enormous difference, even if you have the best possible house setup, which most of us probably don't. Like the surround sound, I'm there are things that I'm hearing now that I definitely am just not going to hear in my living room. And we felt the same way when we went to the premiere last year for the Swordsmith Village. So I think if you want to go support the animators, you want to support the show, and if you enjoyed the last episode, I would totally run for the opportunity to go see it properly on the big screen. And then you get a month early preview of the new season. So
yeah. And Fun fact too, I don't know if our listeners know this, but I did some research, and they've actually been doing this like pre-screening at movie theaters. A lot of animes do it, and Demon Slayer's actually been doing it since before the anime technically started. They actually released the first 5 episodes of season 1 in theaters in Japan in February of 2019, and then the anime started in April of 2019. So they've been doing this for a while. Essentially what happened is they saw how popular it was worldwide, and they said, here, let's just spread it to everyone rather than just be in Japan. So it really is like a total gift. They're just trying to be nice so that everyone can experience it. And remember, it might be a cash grab, but since it's not a sequel, the money is going to the future projects of the show. So go for it.
Wouldn't be a cash grab if they didn't need the cash. So
higher budgets for higher
budgets.
Animation quality.
Better pay for the animators, better work-life balance for the animators.
Yeah.
And maybe that comes with more money.
Exactly.
Maybe not. Maybe that's too optimistic, but
maybe it is, going to the CEO of the company. But, it could be going to everyone, and it could be going to the production quality, so.
Speaking of better animation, there were 2 pieces of animation that we got to see that were brand new. Mm-hmm. And all within the first 5 minutes, literally. So, with that being said, we get to see Sonami's breathing style and Obanai's breathing style. Which one did you guys like better?
I think, and by the way, like, spoiler warning, if you don't want to know until the episode comes out, then this is not the Hashira Half Hour episode for you. But I think that I was more surprised by Sonami, and not that they weren't both cool, but I just, like, the way that I guess I visualized it when I was reading the manga was not what it was, and in, like, a very, very good way. It was really cool. I loved that they gave him, like, a green animation with the breathing style and with, like, his also, like, flashy movements. Sonami was green, Obanai was purple.
Yeah.
And that was cool. I also thought that like suited him very well. That to me felt more like I don't know, like an expected choice, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, he's kind of our moody emo boy. He's gonna have the black, white, and purple theme. It was either gonna be that or red, and I'm like, we have too many people that are like red and orange already.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed seeing the green.
I agree. I think when it comes down to it, serpent breathing and wind breathing. Serpent breathing, you have a good idea of what it's going to look like animated, and it was still absolutely gorgeous. It's one of my favorite things about being a manga reader is seeing these breathing forms animated for the first time, because you can't really get a full grasp of what it looks like until it's in motion with color and everything. So serpent breathing was still very much what I expected. Wind breathing did catch me off guard, mostly because it was green, and I thought that was just so cool, because it matches the color of his sword, and his sword is my favorite of all the characters. So I can't believe I haven't bought his sword yet, because I would just put it on display. It's so cool. It's green and stuff. But I especially enjoyed just watching Sonami in action, just like walk like super slow, and he's just slashing. Like, all right, sir. He looked so nonchalant the whole time with his sword on his back. He's just like, I'm cool.
And he's right.
He is right. He is cool.
He is very cool. However, I do think I want to call it to Obanai, because I thought Obanai was more of my favorite. I loved seeing like the big snake on screen and seeing like the I don't know how else to portray that. But also, I think Obanai's sword is the coolest in contrast as well, because of the little circle, like half circles. And if you could draw a straight line down from the tip to the center, and it's still on balance. So very interesting sword. I think it's very cool. The curves, no straight lines kind of idea. Thank you, Sofia Vergara, for that one. Yes.
Yeah, so that entire scene, I know, totally took us off guard, because I think Bryan already mentioned that was completely anime original. So that was not included in the manga whatsoever. Ufotable like pulled that out of their hats, and it was just so well done, and really set us up for like what is to come in the show as well, to remind us that we're getting close to the end. For how many times was it mentioned in this episode that like the final battle and all scale war is coming soon. They're after Nezuko. It's like, all right, they're swarming around. It's like, okay, got it. And this one just really set us up for the start. And we got to see our first human interaction briefly in the Infinity Castle.
Bro, the way that my jaw dropped in the theater, because I was like, oh my god. It was just crazy to think that now they understand what they're getting themselves into, I think. and the true scale of what they're up against. I think it's easy to think like you're up against the biggest bad, and like that's like one thing to understand, but now you're getting like a small taste of what it looked like, and it was pretty rough. There were so many demons inside that castle already, let alone the rest of the upper ranks.
Admittedly, I did get like just this shot spoiled for me, because like how could people not want to immediately run to the internet and post it, which is fine. So I don't know that I had like the same element of surprise seeing it. I was surprised at where it was. I really thought maybe it was going to end with this shot, because I think all of us were kind of thinking like the Hashira training arc is only a couple chapters long, like
Chapters, yeah. It's
9
a short
chapters.
start
So
in the
like if
story.
they're gonna give us something that's an hour, then what is the rest of the season gonna be?
Yeah.
And so I kind of thought that it was going to be at the end, and that like maybe we were going to get a little bit of what we know as manga readers might be coming next. That was not the case, which I think actually is better for pacing, to try to stretch out this arc as much as they can, but also Ufotable just like milking what they've got going on here with Demon Slayer for everything it's worth, because they know how cool the Infinity Castle looks and how well it was received last year during the Swordsmith Village arc too. And again, this is another reason I think if you're able to go see it on the big screen, because it just makes it feel even more complex and even larger than life than it already feels sitting in your living room, because that, I don't know, you're almost feeling like that feeling of falling and like endlessness that our Hashira experience in this moment. So
well, and I think last year I mentioned this after we went and saw Swordsmith Village in theaters, that I joked, I was like, I think that opening sequence with Akaza like falling through and then that upper moon meeting is the entire reason they made that go to theaters, because they wanted to like flex their muscles with that one scene. And now I'm like, I think they did the same thing this year with this scene. They wanted for that to be in theaters for us to see on the big screen with the surround sound the way it was, because every time the Infinity Castle is a setting in any way in the show, all the way back to season 1 when we saw the lower moons get completely pulverized, not to use the word Goto uses with Tanjiro's bones, but Muzan, destroyed the lower moons in the Infinity Castle all the way back in season 1, and that was just a quick glimpse of this setting that still hasn't had a ton happen in it, but we can assume that it's going to be a pretty big player possibly in the show later on, and they just keep giving us these little tidbits, and every time it's just like so well done. They're like, yeah, we're good at animation.
Oh, and they know it. They have a favorite.
And it's the Infinity Castle.
Exactly.
It's the Infinity Castle, and then on a higher level it's Demon Slayer, because let's be real, I am just, and I'm sure that they're great, but I'm just not hearing like the same PR and like marketing for any other Ufotable shows besides Demon Slayer.
Well, for a little while Demon Slayer was the only one that they were doing, and now they've got Genshin coming up, which should be interesting.
That is cool.
It's taken a while for them to say anything about it, so
Maybe they're waiting to make sure it's done right, which I think is respectable.
Ufotable is very different from MAPPA. Ufotable is always taking their time and only taking on a few projects, if not only one, while MAPPA's kind of more of a quantity type one. It's a very different way of doing things. MAPPA's a much bigger studio, though.
Yeah.
Like, they have multiple locations. Ufotable's like in one spot, I think, so.
Makes sense.
Fair. But going forward after our anime original scene, we kind of come back around to the manga, and we see Kanao going back, and we get to start to see some of the characters that we're familiar with. Tanjiro's recovering from the Swordsmith Village in his bed. Nezuko's entrusted to Kanao. Yeah, it was kind of neat to see our characters kind of get back together, seeing characters we haven't seen since season 1 or 2.
Yeah, and I think that scene with Kanao is actually anime original too. I don't think we saw her arrive.
I think at least her on like the cart.
The cart, and I think yeah, I'd have to reread it, but I'm fairly certain that whole sequence where Shinobu's talking to her is anime original as well, just to add a little bit of exposition, I guess. I don't know. Remind us that she's there.
Yeah.
Like we said, it's 9 chapters. They've got to milk this for everything it's worth. But that means that we're probably going to get like a decent amount of anime original content if they're not going to go as far as what I had thought maybe the episode was going to end on, if it really will just be the Hashira training arc, then I think that they are going to have to add a lot. And that's exciting because Demon Slayer has done it really, really well anytime that they've added anything. I have, like, I don't know if this is a controversial take, but I'm like, this is a story that really, really benefits from being an anime. Because the manga is really good, the anime is better. Because it has more time, I think, to embellish those ideas and to give us more time with each of the characters. So both of these scenes, anime original, and they're incredible. Just like in the Mugen Train TV arc, when we got an episode with Rengoku, I'm kind of hoping that it's going to be along those lines. And that we'll get just, like, more time with the characters that we love so much. It feels like there's a lot of care put into it, and, like, probably that, like, the mangaka is involved in helping to broaden this story.
After that, we get to see, I think that's when we go to the Hashira meeting, no?
So we got to see a little bit of Tanjiro kind of stuffing his mouth.
Oh, done.
The first of many times in this episode. I joke, I'm like, man, I don't know if they gave Hana-san a bunch of snacks and just said, all right, stuff your face and then talk.
Perfect.
Or if he's, you know, not actually, I'm sure he didn't actually have food in his mouth. There's, like, technique and stuff involved, but that was just where my brain went to, of course. But he is stuffing his mouth, and they're kind of talking a little bit about what happened, and Goto is talking to him. We love him. We love Goto in this house. We stan him. And he is asking about Nezuko, and Tanjiro's just like, oh yeah, she's in the sun now. It's chill. He's so cool about it now. What the heck, man?
I think that's really neat. Finally seeing Nezuko kind of develop her agency again and her personality, really. I think we've only gotten to see so much of that, so watching it on screen and being able to finally not get to know a character, but really unpack and peel back the layers of a character is always really nice.
I agree. It's nice to see her gain a little bit of her agency back. That being said, she's also, like, the subject of this massive fight that's about to start, because as we saw at the end of the Swordsmith Village arc, like, Muzan is very, very interested in Nezuko now because she has been the only one of his descendants to conquer the sun. So that's not exactly ideal for keeping her alive. He's like, if the sun doesn't kill her, I will. So there's that. And also, like, Tanjiro's always in the hospital. I'm like, and I think something I noticed that I maybe just didn't realize last time that we watched this because we were watching it at home, but, like, at the end of Swordsmith Village, I'm like, is he lodged, like, onto that tree with, like, a branch through him? Because I kind of think that there was something sticking out of his back.
There was!
And I'm like, well,
how are you alive?
literally, how are you alive? How are you moving? Maybe it's like the Steve Irwin if he had, like, left the stingray thing, like, in.
Oh!
You did not just say that.
I'm like, rest in peace to a real one.
Oh my god.
We love the crocodile.
She went there, man.
But, like,
that hurts.
I'm like, he's just, like, wiggling. I'm like, what is he doing? And then I'm like, oh my god, he, like, broke himself off of the tree. And here he is, and he's just like, oh yeah, like,
Under
she's
the
out
tree.
there, and Osuke's somewhere, Zenitsu will be fine when he gets here. Is that a rice cake? And I have it. Are you gonna eat that? And I'm like, and that's not even the worst injury that he's had. I'm like, this is horrifying.
Poor Tanjiro, man. He just keeps getting beat up by all of his friends. Like, from the time the battle ended till the end of this episode, everyone's, like, sticking their fingers in his face, biting his head. Like,
That was crazy.
Zenitsu's a
still
real one
beating
for
him
that,
up.
though.
Zenitsu really let the intrusive thoughts win there.
I know, right? Like, he said, umai.
That was crazy. They drew him
Oh,
so
man.
ugly.
When he was
Yeah.
freaking out over Nezuko, he was literally like,
He's like, well, maybe we should backtrack and say that, like, Nezuko shared some of her first words in front of him, which was really fun because we all know that that man is crazy, and if he's extra crazy for any one thing, it's for Nezuko.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sweet until it's a little much.
Yeah.
We love them. And then she, like, so first of all, she's in the sun. He's, like, freaking out about that. And then she's like, it's nice to see you, Inosuke. He's like, what do you call me?
And this is after he went through his whole dialogue of like, are we gonna get married now? Oh my god, you're so beautiful in the sunlight. Oh my gosh, you don't have a muzzle. I love you. I love you. Can we get married? I'll feed you sushi. Okaeri Inosuke.
Imofke. Inosuke. Imosuke. Literally, that entire scene of Inosuke trying to teach Nezuko the name is so sweet. It's like two small, like, village idiots trying to work together. Mm-hmm. It's great.
Yeah, but we'll talk a little bit more about that scene, I think, in a moment, because we got to backtrack to the Hashira meeting, which I think is kind of the meat of this episode to kind of go through. There's quite a few things revealed in this, and kind of first want to talk about the fact that not only was Kaguya not there because of his declining health, but he also is not going to be able to appear in front of them ever again. So that's a pretty like hard thing to take for the Hashira as well as us as an audience who have grown used to him kind of being that source of just kindness and respect, and now he can't appear in front of them. Where do you think, that kind of puts the audience? I guess you could say. I don't know where I was wording that question.
See, I disagree with a little bit of what you just said, in that like he definitely was kind when he was there, but we've barely seen him. Mm-hmm. Like realistically, his screen time is probably like not very much, and his like actual speaking lines are even fewer. So it's like, okay, like this guy seems like very wise. He's obviously like very sick, but he's got to have a plan, right? And while I do think he has a plan, this definitely like puts more on the Hashira's shoulders. And so as the audience, I'm like, this is actually kind of crazy to take out like the leader mm-hmm. at what seems to be like still kind of an early stage of the culmination of the show.
Yeah.
It's like, we're just going to wipe him out. Just gonna off-screen him.
No, not off-screen him.
I mean, he had less screen time than 10-10, but he still had a higher impact.
That reference.
It's a Naruto reference. What would the show be without a Naruto reference? Right over it. But yeah, I mean, Kaguya was definitely their pinnacle of hope, if you will, because he had kind of the master plan going, and still kind of does, really. He manipulates things in a very cunning way, I would say. And so, realistically, like, yes, he's off screen at this point, but it's not that he's not there. It's that I don't think he wants them to see him like this, because it's better that he's communicating through Amane at this point for, I think, the Hashira's sake, and maybe a little bit of his own, because he doesn't want to have to face them in that condition, which I think is really probably what it is.
Yeah. And yeah, I agree, he hasn't had a ton of like screen time. Obviously, he's just kind of been around, but I think every scene that he has been in has been very, very meaningful for character backstories. When he arrived in season 1, it was a very special moment because like Nezuko and Tanjiro were about to both be executed by the Hashira, and he kind of like was like, whoa, like let's chill out here. So, we've known for a while that he's kind of been getting worse and worse. As every time we see him, it seems that he's sicker and sicker. So to have him just not be there at all is a little bit tough. But that being said, some more lore. We get to talk a little bit about the mark. And of course, they did leave some information out. They are drip feeding a lot of this information in the story. However, it is explained kind of how these marks are appearing. And I know, it's kind of been a big mystery up until now, but according to what Amane says, is that a marked one has to appear, and then everyone around them will become marked as if in resonance, I think mm-hmm. is the word they use. So obviously that's kind of a big deal. And also, the marked one is my boy Tanjiro. He is the special one.
Of course he is. He has to be. For one thing, he's our main character. And we love him. But he's also like, at least on screen, seen some of the toughest battles in the show. He's like had the most run-ins with any of the moons, upper or lower, and he was the first one that saw Muzan too. Mm-hmm. And everyone was like, what do you mean you saw Muzan? Nobody's seen Muzan for hundreds of years. He's like, well, I found him because I smelled him. So
I mean, that's true.
I can smell you.
I can smell you coming off the elevator. and Smell You with Larry, Little Mo with the leg. Anyone Home Alone? No? All right.
Which
Merry
Home Alone is
Christmas,
that
you
from?
filthy animal.
Thank you! Thank you! Angels with Filthier Souls. Tanjiro, our little special boy. It has to be him, right? He's the one.
He is the main character.
Honestly, I don't know how else to phrase that besides...
He is him.
He is him.
He is him.
Capital H-I-M.
Well, I mean, he's been target number 1 since season 1. It's just been not as dangerous because he's been target number 1 because Muzan's scared of him because of his earrings.
Yeah.
Nezuko is now target number 1. Same family. And it's a little bit more dangerous because now Muzan himself is making a move. And that's way more dangerous than sending demons after them.
Yeah.
That's off track of what we were talking about, but I felt like I needed to say it.
I mean, it's important to the conversation.
Yeah.
It's germane to the predicament.
He is the main character, after all. He's like Murder, She Wrote. Like, just bad things follow him around.
That's true.
Nonetheless, they try and talk about how the mark actually manifests. And in true Kanroji fashion, she has the best descriptors of bam, bam, and then my heart was fluttering and my body felt light and it was like pow, pow. So yeah. But then Tokito actually gives us an explanation of how to do it. Honestly, there are some funny moments in this episode, specifically in this scene when Gyu's like, yeah, if you, oh wait, what was it?
Sanemi said he...
Yeah, it seems so simple. And Gyu's like, I wish my mind was so simple to think this is simple. And I was like...
And then it shows Sanemi and Obanai just staring him down like, what did you just say?
He really is just trying to pick a fight. He wants
Always.
attention so bad. And I love him for that. He's our moody emo boy.
He's got issues, man. He's got to work through them.
He's like, going to my room.
He literally said he was going to his room.
He literally, okay, so he leaves. He's like, I'm not like you guys. And he ends up leaving, and every time we see him after that, he's literally sitting alone in a giant empty room, just sitting there. What? That is the epitome of sulking.
It is. It's extremely relatable. Like, does anybody else just like, he's like doing the like, I just took my everything shower, and now I'm sitting here, just like thinking for like an hour.
I've done that. I've definitely done that. It takes that long for my brain to be like, what did you just do?
Well, I just scoured off the top layer of skin, and now I have to think about how to manifest this mark. So
I have to think about
All my previous trauma.
why I'm...
the way that I am.
Oh my god. Also, fun note, I love how you mentioned Mitsuri, how she explained it, and it shows Tanjiro do like the exact same thing, because I kept saying during Sword of the Village, I was like, Mitsuri is female Tanjiro. Like, Tanjiro, different font. They're both just like, ah! Like, wee! and then they both are like, oh yeah, I was like, wee!
It's perfect,
the mark
actually.
manifests, and then it goes Tanjiro type as she finishes, and he sneezes.
I don't know if the sneeze is supposed to be like your ears ringing, like someone's talking about you.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
He's just like...
He's like, huh? But my favorite
Adorable.
part of that moment was actually like the other Hashira reactions to her, though, too, because they're like, what are you talking about? Except for like Obanai's just like, he's like, I love this woman so much.
And Sanemi is looking at him specifically like, that's your girl.
Control yo.
Control your girl.
Oh, I almost said control yo ho, but.
And I'm gonna stand beside him.
From there, what happens next?
Well, they do actually discuss how it seems to actually work, because Muichiro does have his awareness of what happened. He's not pulling a Tanjiro or a Mitsuri. He kind of explains that his heartbeat was at over 200 beats per minute, and that he had a fever of 102 degrees Fahrenheit. Fun fact, I knew what they were saying in Celsius, 39 degrees Celsius. So I guess that's 102 degrees Fahrenheit for those of us, or for those listeners who are not American. So what do we think of the terms to make this mark appear? That means that Tanjiro, Mitsuri, and Muichiro have all been to that point. multiple times for Tanjiro.
That's literally what they say, though, too. They're like, when you are pushing your human body this physically hard, the difference between somebody who gets the mark and somebody who's not going to get the mark is basically whether or not you die or you get to keep going, because it's like pushing the physical boundaries of what's possible as a human. So, yeah, I think I would also be dead.
I would not manifest a mark. I would just...
Because, like, 102 is already, like, a pretty high fever. And then, like, but it's the 200 beats per minute for the heart. Like, that is, like, beyond a heart attack.
Yeah, 180, I think, is, like, the highest it should go when you're in active exercise, essentially. Yeah. That's, like, considered to be, like, the maximum.
But after we get the explanation, and after Gyu goes sulking in his room, they allude to, or they drip out some information that anyone who manifests the mark, and then cut the scene and cut a line out, which would obviously gives us speculations. We as manga readers know what it is, but we're not going to say anything about that. We're just going to skip past it. And then Guillaume is like, sit down, Gyu, we're talking this out. Kind of an interesting way to end the meeting, yeah?
Yeah. It's hard for me to dance around this because we already know what it is, but like I think we can tell that there's at least like something kind of somber about whatever she's about to say, and so we can assume that there is some kind of price to be paid in order to manifest this physical ability that comes with having the mark, and they're gonna have to decide, I guess, if the trade-off is worth it to them, probably, but she has to at least give them all of the information.
Yeah, they give them... She essentially says, like, obviously for those of you who have manifested it, it's too late. Like, you can't go back now. But it's clear that there is some kind of caveat. Amane is essentially letting everyone else decide for themselves if the caveat is worth it. She says, like, it would be great for all of you to work on this, but she's honestly telling them, you don't have to if you don't want to. It's kind of the way I saw it. So at least she's still giving them the freedom to decide. But stay tuned for what that caveat is. And thus begins the plans for Hashira Training.
And so, we see them figuring out kind of what comes next for the Hashira Training, where we have basic physical skills run by retired Hashira, Uzui Tengen.
Yay! He's back!
Then it's Muichiro on rapid...
movement?
Yeah, rapid movement training. To feel like you're floating like mist. Then it was Mitsuri's flexibility training. Flexibility from hell, if I might add.
Yeah.
All I can imagine is them twirling in bonnets.
I hope they don't take out the leotards.
Oh. Okay, quick another manga spoiler.
Sorry.
There's hella leotards. And I hope I love it.
Would not trade it for anything.
Exactly. Leotards. I want one.
Me too.
Maybe. We'll see. Then what comes next? It was Obanai with the sword skills, then rapid slashes with Sonomi, and lastly brute physical strength with Yome, which I mean makes sense, right? He's the biggest guy out of all of them.
He's enormous.
He's huge, and it makes sense that his would be just complete strength. And I think Tengen says, like, you get there, you're basically superhuman.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yes.
If we can get there.
And we need to try to get everybody there,
is
the way that it sounds. Like, we're really trying to not leave anybody behind. We know some of these, like, NPCs are gonna get off-screened. But
if they don't have a Howari, they're done for.
But they do need to try. So it's really smart, I think, to have all of the Hashira training them separately. But then they mentioned something interesting, too, in that, like, I think Gyu maybe had to stick around for that meeting because Gyome kind of put his hands together and his foot down.
No, he was gone.
Did he actually fully leave?
He did not take part in that meeting. He left and sulked. He was already sulking in his big empty room.
See, but that brings me to my point that, like, he does not offer any training either. And he's also quite strong. Another character we haven't gotten to see fight too much yet, though.
No, and all we have seen from him has been him taking down Rui so easily after Tanjiro struggled so much with Rui.
Yeah.
So we know that he's powerful, and he deserves to be a Hashira, but he apparently thinks that he's not like them. TBD.
I'm different. I'm not like other girls. Is exactly like the other girls.
He should have flipped his hair.
That's the training. It seems like brutal physical training. Honestly, after that, if you didn't have a six-pack, I don't know what's going on. But honestly, it's kind of this training that I need. I wish I could take like another 2 weeks off of work and go through that. That'd be fun. Boot camp.
I don't want to go through that training. I would not make it through Tengens. I would be the one that he's like slapping with the stick. I'd just be on the ground.
Oh, no, I'm not saying I wouldn't get slapped with a stick either, but I mean, I'd let Tengen slap me with a stick.
Yeah. I was watching that and I was kind of like,
Okay, me too.
Let's just put it out there. Getting to see that they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Thing number 2, we got to see Hot Muzan on the big screen.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
And
I wasn't going to say anything, but...
But he looked really good for like half of a second. So
he looked good for most of his time on that screen.
But that is a problematic. That is a problematic.
Don't cancel us.
Hey, I can say a character is hot. I don't have to say that he is a good person.
Or ethical.
No. Or ethical. It's kind of like Doma.
Anyway.
Moving on.
Moving on. I think next we see Tamayo, right?
We got to see like all the training. We got to see Zenitsu arrive with Nezuko. We already kind of talked about that scene. Tanjiro got a letter from Kaguya himself to go and talk to Giyu. And we don't really see exactly what the plan is, but essentially it just seems as if this letter is saying Giyu's not taking part in the training, go talk to him. Why are we picking Tanjiro for this? Why do we...
Well, my guess would be that, like, we know Giyu already has a soft spot for Tanjiro and Nezuko because he stood up for them during the last Hashira meeting that we saw, which was a while ago. That was in season 1. And, of course, like, just the fact that he, like, let both of them live in episode 1.
Yeah.
Like, so even if he's, like, very kind of, like, cold-shouldered about it, like, we know that he does have a soft spot for the two of them, so he's most likely to listen, I think, to Tanjiro, because Nezuko can only say, like, 5 words, so...
I can just hear me, like... You got that!
Inosuke?
Imosuke.
Yeah. That's Imosuke.
Perfect. I mean, yeah, Giyu is that emo punk guy that's like walks the old lady across the street. Like, very much so. Like, not what you would expect on the inside. He's like a box of chocolates, I guess you could say. You never know what you're gonna get. Yeah,
but it is a good setup for the next episode because I think the next episode is going to have one of my favorite parts of the story coming up. And I think if you've been listening for a while, you know my top 2 characters are way up there compared to everyone else. And it's Tanjiro and Giyu. And what we're about to see is one of the reasons why. I won't dive in any more than that, but I'm looking forward to that. And also, we got to see Kaguya's crow approach Tamayo, which I love that they're, like, bringing them back. Because their storyline in season 1 really changed the story, in my opinion, because they were the first, outside of Nezuko, demons that we saw that were good. And now we're seeing them come back and being asked to help defeat Muzan.
And she's rightfully, like, kind of scared about this, which I think was a really interesting characterization. It's like, for her character, I felt like it wasn't the obvious choice, because she's been, like, very confident in, like, her ability to hide, for one thing, confident in, like, her medicinal abilities. So to see her, like, shaken by something is kind of interesting. But, like, you can't blame her. She's like, Kaguya is so smart. Are they trying to, like, lure me to the place where all of the Hashira are, where I won't stand a chance and they're going to take me down, knowing that I've been around for a really, really long time? Do we think that's the case? I don't think that's interesting. I think that they've got more of a purpose for her that they mention in the letter.
Shinobu, especially being the one who's mentioned, not one to hide behind intentions or pull punches. Like, I think we've seen already her way of treating demons she doesn't respect and doesn't have a care for. So I think that realistically, like, this is a true, like, call to action for her and something for her to, like, hopefully grab onto as a way to regain some humanity and helping defeat demon kind.
Yeah, and it's interesting you brought up Shinobu, and she obviously was also absent from the lineup for Hashira Training. her and Giyu, and we kind of know why Giyu was absent, but we didn't really know why Shinobu was absent. But I think this kind of answers the question, because I think that they're showing that maybe what she's going to be doing is a little bit different than what everyone else is in preparation for this, and looking forward to seeing possibly if Tamayo does accept what the two of them can do, because honestly, two badass fighters with such smart high IQs, and they're able to, you know, make these medicines. And like, let's be real, Tanjiro would have died in like Mugen Train if it weren't for Shinobu.
Exactly.
So like, she's been keeping this team alive. She's been a very integral part, and I think Tamayo is also a very integral part in the story as well, because she's kind of helped them realize what's going on with Nezuko. So very excited to see where that ends up.
100%. Two badass women.
With purple eyes.
With purple eyes. And dark hair.
Yeah. They're very similar looking. But with that, that is the end of the episode. So let's real quick recap the new opening credits as well. What do we think of the song? What do we think of the visuals?
The visuals, there's so much. Like, the visuals of paralleling Kaguya and Muzan are so good. Like, they're rotating in a circle and they keep, like, panning them back to back. That was so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more top tier animation, and they always, like, put their whole heart and soul into especially the opening and closing sequences. So I really enjoyed watching it. For me, I really tried hard to not have this spoiled for myself. So even when it, like, popped up, I would scroll past. So it was my first time hearing the song, first time seeing the animation. So I think to give it, like, a more thorough review, I would have to watch it a couple more times and listen to it a couple more times. But I enjoyed the song a lot, and I thought the animation was beautiful as always.
Yeah, I think this song, kind of like Kizuna no Kiseki, honestly, will grow on me a little bit more, because the first time I heard the chorus of that one, I was kind of like, what is this? It sounds like My Hero Academia. But that being said, I think it's definitely a little bit different, and the vibes are definitely changing. And I kind of called this after Swordsman's Village, because Kizuna no Kiseki also, the vibes changed a little bit of the song, and I think we're getting into that phase of like, all right, we're getting close to the end, and you can kind of feel it in the way these songs are being written. As far as I know, the lyrics, I think the song is called Mugen. I believe that's what they said the name was. So we like the word Mugen here.
Infinity.
Yes. And the visuals are amazing. I have to call out the very end where we see Tanjiro go after Muzan? Question mark? We'll have to find out. But that was amazing to see. The first time I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh. It really gives you the feeling of, oh, we're getting there.
Well, he's coming to them now. That's what it sounds like. So
yeah, he's going to make his move soon.
It's a matter of when.
Yep.
It's not if, but when.
Do we have favorite moments real quick we want to go through?
When Zenitsu was skipping away from Tanjiro.
That was so cute.
That was literally like such a Tony Chopper moment. I'm sorry, but it's my son. This is my son. Did you consider that? But he does this super cute thing where, like, anytime somebody compliments him, he's like, no, you idiot, don't tell me that. Don't keep going.
It's literally perfect.
And that's, like, exactly, like, it just reminded me of that immediately, and I'm like, this is so precious.
Yeah.
I love it.
And the bite marks on Tanjiro's head.
That was crazy. That was insane.
Hold on, let me reenact.
I was not ready. Also, I loved how, like, Zenitsu was like, don't think that helps anything. And Tanjiro thinks, oh, he's better. Thank goodness. He just knows his friends so well. That was a cute moment.
I liked it. I mean, of course, I have to give a nod to, like, the opening sequence, because where it was placed and what it ended up being beyond what I had spoiled for me was so well done, which is a little bit expected from Ufotable, but just gonna give the credit where credit's due. But, like, the scene that I thought was the funniest was at the end with, like, Gyome's training starting.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
like, all these poor NPCs are, like, doing the waterfall, like the most, like, stereotypical strength training that you could ever imagine in, like, an Asian piece of media. And then they're like one by one getting, like, knocked out, and it's just like they're just talking, and you're just, like, seeing the river move, and then, like, one body floats by, and then, like, two bodies float by. And I'm like, that would be me.
I would not survive Hashira Training.
I probably wouldn't have even made it to Gyome, like, let's be real.
I would not make it past Tengen. I'm not a runner.
I'd probably be like Genya in the hospital, just like, could you guys please be quiet? I'm trying to be sick.
I would be Tanjiro, just sitting in bed. Also, he was reading a book. He's just chilling. I love it. He needs to chill for a little while.
Literate king.
That's what he was doing when the crow came up. I noticed it on this watch. I was like, he was just reading. I'm like, all right, good job, Tanjiro. But that being said, my favorite moment, I would have to go with every time Tanjiro is stuffing his face. We know I love my boy, and after everything he went through in Swords Village, because that was a very I think tougher on him mentally and physically than any battle has been so far, just because of the situation at the end. Mm-hmm. So to go from watching the end of Swords Village, where it's like, okay, my heart is breaking for the 1000th time because he's crying over thinking he lost his sister, his last family member, to the point where he's just like happily chowing down on food and quickly gaining the Mitsuri appetite. It brings me so much joy and so much serotonin that I can just sit and watch him chow down on some food for a while. So every moment like that is my favorite.
I'm excited to watch it again.
It'll be good. We got a couple months. We still don't know when the season's actually coming out. They haven't released even a month. They've just said spring. So be prepared for possibly waiting until May, you guys. I think there's a likely chance we might be waiting that long for episode 2, but hopefully not. But with that being said, that is it for today. So thank you all so much for listening in. We are super excited that Demon Slayer is coming back, even if we have another long hiatus in front of us.
Thank you so much again to Tokyo Treat for sponsoring today's episode of the Hashira Half Hour.
If you want to get your own Tokyo Treat box, don't forget, go ahead, hit that link in our bio. Use code Hashira for your own little discount off your first Tokyo Treat box. That way you can get some of these experiences. Tokyo Treat's been amazing in the time that we've worked together, so definitely recommend. Every box has just been absolute fire.
That being said, if you liked this video or this podcast, you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, and drop a like. And also let us know what you want us to talk about next. If you have any questions about the new arc, we would be more than happy to answer them in a future podcast. And on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere you can get podcasts, make sure to give us a 5-star rating, download that episode, and leave a comment in the Q&A that we will also answer in a future episode. You can also follow us on social media. We are at Hashira Half Hour on TikTok and Instagram, and Hashira Half on Twitter, which we keep saying we're going to post more on, and we never do, but we're going to get there. We're going to post more.
I started quote tweeting things.
He did.
Perfect.
He shouted Boruto at something.
I shouted. Okay, Boruto is the anime character people hate, but he doesn't deserve it, okay? Listen, stop hating on Boruto. He's not a spoiled little brat.
You heard it here first, folks. Stop hating on Boruto.
Definitely first. Sorry.
Oh, man. All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for listening in. And with that, umai.
Umai!
Umai.